Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ray.
Now, our speaker today, sometimes you delay the name, but I'm not going to do this. It's Dr. Jerry Miller, and nearly everybody here knows him, and many of us know him well. But you may not know a little bit of his background, and one is he grew up in the metropolis of Swords Creek, Virginia. And after graduating from med school at the Medical School of Richmond, he decided to move to a larger town than Swords Creek, and so he started his individual practice in Nicholsville. And big move up, wasn't it, there? Of course, and his wife, Amy, was his lab technician, and that was their team there. Well, just to jump forward, I wanted to show you one thing. This, and that's his resume, and I want him to have time for his program, so I'm just hitting some highlights. But anyway, he later founded Holston Medical Group, as you may know, and was president of it for 40 years. And one other interesting thing, among the many organizations he was in, 30 or 40 to be counting, he was a past chair of the East Tennessee Emergency Medical Services. And I think that may be interesting to some people, and after his program, he'll be glad to answer questions on this valid controversy we're going through. Is that not loud enough, Tim? Okay. She's been over here to look at it, but I'll try to talk a little later. Right now, Jerry is serving as the medical director for the Community Health Alliance of Tennessee and the Consumers Choice Health Plan of the state of South Carolina, both. And he's on the road a lot, I know. In the meanwhile, while he...
I think the battery died.
Battery died? I'll talk louder.
Yeah, go ahead and talk us through it.
In the meantime, I'll talk a little louder, and then we'll have it ready for him when it comes. He had been married for 58 years to Amy, and they raised 5 fine children, you know, a doctor, a pilot, and no lawyers. And, you know, Jerry has been called a caring doctor. He's been called an entrepreneur, and certainly been often known as a visionary, which he was, and he'll tell you about his entry into Holston Medical Group with that. But more than that, he's always had time for his friends, and I'm honored to be one of those. Dr. Jerry Miller.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. I'll get the microphone here in a few minutes, but just hold your hand up if you can't hear me. I look around here and I see a few patients that I have had the opportunity to care for. And I want to thank you for allowing me to care for you as a doctor. It's really a privilege. It's a responsibility, yes. But it is really wonderful to be a doctor. He told you something about me, and yes, I grew up in a little town, Swords Creek, Virginia. And I lived in a little house. My mother and dad, neither one graduated from high school. We lived in a little house that did not have an indoor bathroom. Well, I can tell you, at age 8, I was in my upstairs bedroom. And I heard my mother scream unbelievably in the kitchen. And I said, "Oh Lord, what is going on? What's going on with my mother?" Well, in a few minutes, someone knocked on my door, and this lady said, "Congratulations, you just became a brother." So my only sibling, my sister, was born in the kitchen of our house by a midwife. I went back to my room and I sat down and I said, "Thank you, Lord, for my mother. Thank you, Lord, for my sister. and thank you for what she and others have meant to me. I said, I'm writing you a note, Mother, because I'm telling you right now, I am a doctor as of this day.
All right.
Because I'm going to be a doctor, a medical doctor, and I'm going to make things better for people like you, particularly in rural America. I want to be in rural America because this doctor was about 80 years old and lived about 40 miles from us, or was. So anyway, that's how it pretty much started for me, because I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. And it went on from there. I went to high school, Honecker. I went to the University of Richmond and graduated in 3 years from the University of Richmond. Then I went to Medical College of Virginia. It's now VCU. And in 1965, I was the youngest doctor in Virginia. I organized 12 doctors classmates that I truly liked. And I said, you know, we're going to be a group. So we got an internship in Springfield, Ohio, Mercy Hospital, Springfield, Ohio, all 12 of us. Now at that time, there was not a residency program for family medicine. There is now, as you know, 3 years that they go, but not then, only 1 year of internship. So we were together up there, and I came home. My wife, who I wish was here today, but she was a lab tech, and in medical school we had 3 boys, Mike, Greg, and Todd. And my father-in-law was quite a character. He came to me after the 3rd one was born, just before I graduated, and he said, Jerry, I'm really worried about you. He said, you apparently did not attend the class that's telling you what's having these babies, what's causing these babies. How are you going to support this family, you know? Well, we did, and then we got to Nicholsville. We had 2 daughters. So 5 children, 5 wonderful in-laws, 11 grandchildren, and May the 1st, I'm going to have a great-grandchild. So what a delight it has been, and what a delight this practice of medicine has been. Now, I've got a lot of information here. You can interrupt me if you'd like, and I'll run through some of it. I don't want to keep you too long. But Holston Medical Group is my life in many, many ways. It has been a journey. I've loved it, and it has really been a delight for me. Now, Helen Keller, who knows and remembers Helen Keller? This is a quote that I use so many times because one of the greatest atrocities of this world is to have sight and no vision. Sight and no vision. And I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, healthcare today needs to know this quote and use it all the time, because I have never seen healthcare. In my years, 54 years of being a doctor, I have never seen such crises as we've got in healthcare today. Now, here is where we started, and this slide is about 15 years old. It's the area that I knew, I kind of grew up in, and that I wanted to help as the doctor. And at that time, 15 years ago, the population was about 720,000. There were 1,200 MDs, 14 hospitals. Well, today the population is about 1 million. There are 3,600 providers, and there are 22 hospitals. So it has changed, it has grown, but ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the sickest populations in the country. And it's one of the elderly populations. For example, in this region right here, we are second in the nation to people going to nursing homes, assisted living, and Alzheimer's units. Right today, we have the diagnosis of 4,382 Alzheimer's diagnosed right in the immediate region. So it is an illness that is growing, and it is something that we're dealing with all the time. But this is the environment that I worked in. Now, in 1965, 66, the average female, when I came out of medical school in 1965, lived expectancy 65. The average male, 63. What is it today? The average female is 81 to 82 today, and the average male is 78, 79. My goodness, haven't we come a long way? And it's all, you know, the things, I never will forget when I graduated, one of the professors I truly loved, he patted me on the shoulder and he said, now Dr. Miller, you're going to come into academiology. I want you an academist here, I want you a teacher here at MCV. And I said, no, Dr. Smart, I'm not going to do that. And that was his name. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to rural Virginia and I'm going to make a difference in many people's lives. He said, okay, go ahead and do that. Well, let me tell you, he then said to me, you're one of the best diagnosticians we've ever had at this medical school, Dr. Miller. I love it. He said, now I want you to know your medicines a little bit better. He said, I want you to get out there and I want you to know about 25 medicines and drugs and know it well, and that's all you need to know. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, there are 42 that begin with the letter Z. So you better know a little bit more, you see. And also it's said to be a family doctor today, you're going to have 1 million bits of information between your ears. And I believe it. But here is what we had in the 65s, up 77 and so forth. Average income, about $15,000 per family, gasoline, 65 cents a gallon. And you can go through these. Jimmy Carter was president, and a U.S. citizen person spent $204 average each year on their health care. We'll talk about what it is now a little later. And in this region, in Nicholsville, when I started, I charged $4 for an office visit. I never will forget one time I had to make a house call upon one of the high ridges there, and I rode my car over, got on a wagon, and then got on the back of a horse and went up and made a house call. Charged $12. Medicare phoned me back and said that that was too expensive. I couldn't charge that much. But yet in the city of Richmond, you could get $12 for an office visit. So here in Kingsport, I drove the 21 miles, usually once or twice a day, maybe sometimes more, between Nicholsville and here. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Nicholsville in a minute. But the medical staff here was getting older and older. We did not have enough to treat people. We didn't have enough beds at Holston Valley. I remember Dr. Mosry, an ophthalmologist, some of you probably know him. Dr. Mosry came to me and he says, you know, it's 30 days before I can get somebody a bed at Holston Valley. So what we did, me and Hugh Rule, you all know him, Ralph Morton, and a few others, we headed it out and got Indian Path Hospital built, 1974. And HCA built that, you know. So we worked on it to help access and so forth. And recruiting doctors to this area was nearly impossible. Probably one of the most difficult things in HMG for me to do and us to do was to recruit doctors. And let me tell you one little incident thing about that. It wasn't that they didn't want to come and practice, but many doctors are married to professionals. Where do you get work for them? You couldn't get them, and I lost I don't know how many because of that. I had many conversations with Eastman and other entities to say, we've got to have more jobs for spouses. So Jerry Miller, like I said, I've always been active and so forth, so I got to know John Dodson. I hope some of you knew John Dodson. One of the finest gentlemen I believe I've ever met. So John and I got together. Now there was some politics, and yeah, there was some, you know, you got to be careful. You can't let Dr. Miller get too big in a group or something like that, you know. But John and I, we noted that access was bad, and so we decided we were going to form a group and see what we could do. Now, healthcare costs in 1965, $204 a person. Healthcare costs 2004, $6,400. Today, it is $10,780 a person is what we pay for healthcare per person, average in the United States today. Healthcare 1965, 24% paid for government, 2004, 46%, today 54% paid by government. And with the ACA Act, and pardon me, but the Obamacare Act it is called, it's actually gone up over that. Eastman, we worked a lot with Eastman with our disease management programs and so forth to manage their illnesses. We worked with Dr. Heba out there. We actually put a clinic out there and to hold their costs down. And it was ranging about there, and today it is much less than the general average. $3.5 trillion is what the U.S. is spending on health care today, and it's actually 19% of the GDP. So it's out of control, ladies and gentlemen, and something has to be done. Now, so this is the history of Holston Medical Group. It's going to get a little complex, and I'll try to go through it as quickly as I can, but we'll see. So, Nicholsville Medical Center. 1966, I came out of internship. My wife was a wonderful mother of 3 at that time and a lab technician. So we got together and I said, Emmy, I'm going into the military. I'm going to Vietnam to protect our country. And she said, I want you to. We moved back to Lebanon, where my parents moved to, and she got a job at the Lebanon hospital. I got my letter that said, Dr. Miller, report to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, with enough clothes for 24 hours and enough money for 1 month. And gave me a date to go. So I was getting ready to go. And I got a call from a Colonel Harding from the National Guard of Virginia. He said, Dr. Jerry Miller, I've heard about you. I know you're from rural America. I got a favor of you. And I said, yes, what is it? He said, I don't want you to go into the military. I want you to do something with the National Guard for me. I said, I can't do that. I said, I can't. I've got to go to Vietnam and protect my colleagues and country. He said, let me come and visit with you. I said, well, okay. So he came, and he brought a Congressman, Wamper, some of you knew that, and a guy from Nicholsville. And they came to me and they said, Dr. Miller, we got 6 National Guard units here and no doctor to take care of any illnesses or do physicals or anything. Please come. And the guy from Nicholsville said, we've got a little clinic that the doctor is no longer there, it's closed, the nearest hospital, Kingsport, 21 miles, we need you. I went in and talked to my wife and my mom and dad, and I said, what did I do? I'm going to go to Vietnam. I had a classmate killed in Vietnam. I said, no, you're going to go to Nicholsville. And so I accepted and I went to Nicholsville. So Emmy and I drove down with our 3 kids, and oh my goodness, we drove through the town of Nicholsville. Missed it almost, you know, because there's not much there. And then I came back to the little clinic and I looked at it and I said, well, we're going to be here. She said, we'll go broke here. We got these 3 kids. How can we ever make it here, Jerry? I said, we'll do it. We started that clinic. The first day I saw 48 in the clinic. And in 2 years, it was over 100 a day. We made house calls. It was unbelievable. And the 3 boys, no seat belts in the car. They didn't go with me and Emmy. And she sat in the parking lot at the Holston Valley. We didn't have urgent care doctors at that time or emergency room doctors. I had to cover that. And it was amazing what we did. And but I saw it was unsustainable, ladies and gentlemen. We saw about as many in the house as we saw in the office. And I never will forget, we were having a big dinner one day, I don't know, Thanksgiving or something, and all at once the back door opens and here comes this guy, and with blood all over him. And he'd had a nosebleed and some other problem, and my kids started to cry. And I took care of him. I said, yes. So Emmy and I said, well, maybe we ought to consider bringing in other people and getting help, and that's what we did. I want to tell you 2 quick stories. Emily always called me Dr. Miller. She'd say, Dr. Miller, and she did the lab in the clinic. So one day I was in the office in one of the examining rooms busy, and she said, Jerry! Well, I knew something was up. So I came out quickly and ran to the little emergency room, and there she stood, holding a little 8-pound, 3-ounce baby girl. The mother was hugely obese. Didn't know she was pregnant, thought she was having diarrhea. I'll never forget the look on her mother's face. We delivered that little baby. I took care of the placenta and everything. We put it in a little drawer there. And it did well. I didn't have to admit it into the hospital. So about 3 or 4 years ago, Emmy and I were out at the mall going to Piccadilly's. And I looked over and this little blonde-headed lady was coming up, a beautiful little lady. And she came up to me and she said, are you Dr. Miller? I said, yes. She said, are you Emily Miller? Emmy said, yes. She said, well, I'm Emily McQuillan, and you delivered me 38 years ago. Thank you for doing that. Well, that was just one of the nice things. We were out there another time, And I looked over and here the little stoop-shouldered fellow was coming. I said, "Now, Emily, here comes a patient." I said, "Just hold up." So he comes up and he said, "Hey, are you Dr. Miller?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Well, let me tell you, your face is familiar, but I can't put a name to it, and I'm so sorry." He said, "I'm Mr. Burke, and you used to be my doctor, and I wish you were again." I said, "Thank you. I wish I were too, and thanks for allowing me to be your doctor." And he looks over at Emily, and then we were celebrating our 58th anniversary of being married. He looked at her and he said, "And this is your youngest daughter, isn't it?" I said, "Well, I'll tell you one thing, Mr. Burke, I didn't send you the eye specialist soon enough. I couldn't live with her for the next 3 months." One other story at Nicholsville. After 6.5, 7 years, I saw it unsustainable, but I had the fortunate opportunity to recruit a Dr. Gear. I don't know how many of you know Dr. Gear, but he's wonderful. And he and I met in a bar in Lexington, Kentucky. And I won't go any further there, but I got him to come and join me. So I, with John Dodson, decided we had to do something. And I was going to move to Kingsport, start Holston Medical Group, or at least a primary care physician group. So the first patient I ever saw in Nicholsville was Hannah Kilgore, Ms. Kilgore. She came to the little house. We rented a 3-bedroom house, paid $75 a month to live in it, and she came and was seen on the back porch. So I was in the office really busy, and she was in this 5 years later, 6 years later, and I walked in and I said, "Hi, Ms. Kilgore, how are you doing today?" "Well, not good." I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. What can I do for you?" She said, "Are you leaving Nicholsville?" And I said, "Now, yes, let me tell you, Mrs. Kilgore, I'm going to leave here, but the clinic will never close." And ladies and gentlemen, it has never closed. Dr. DeMott's is up there today. I went up the other day to see him, and boy, he was so busy. She said, "But you're leaving." I said, "Yes, but I'll be in Kingsport, and you can drive over to see me if you want. I'm not going to discharge anybody, but the clinic will be open for you." She said, "Hand me my purse right there." I said, "Hand you your purse?" "Yeah." So I handed her a purse. She took out this big white envelope out of it, and she ripped it in about 3 or 4 pieces. She said, "I just gave you my farm, but I'm taking it back." I said, "Wait a minute, let me think about this, you know?" Seriously, she had given me a farm, 40 acres. And I swear, she was the nicest person. And what eventually happened to it, I don't know, but Dr. Miller didn't get it. So anyway, we started the Nicholsville Clinic, and like I said, it was unsustainable. I couldn't keep up. I needed to read. I needed to take classes. I wanted to be the best doctor I could be. And I knew it was unsustainable, so then we started the Kingsport Medical Group. That's when I moved here. Dr. Lane, Dr. Gear, they stayed in Nicholsville, and we moved over here to the improvement building on Market Street. There was 4 of us, me, Dr. Lane, Dr. Dickerson, Dr. Boyd, and we overwhelmed that place in no time. And we were strictly primary care. Then we went to Sullivan Street, which is now the health department, down on Sullivan Street. We opened it up, and we added doctors there to serve our general public. So then, in 1980, I kept driving by the little Munnell Clinic, and I said, "What in the world's going on out here at the Munnell Clinic? 15 beds and a nice little urgent care setting that wasn't open," and so forth. So I contacted a Dr. John Munnell. I said, "I want to buy that clinic." So in 1980, our little group, which has always been doctor-owned, doctor-led, and patient-active, we bought Munnell Clinic in 1980. And as soon as we bought it, I opened an urgent care there. First urgent care, Sunday, after hours, and so forth. And then we also worked with the Metabee Durable Equipment Company. But I really got set back in probably where I should have been, because I decided I was going to take the Munnell Clinic over to where now the Pavilion is, and in CHC. And I said, you know, that's where I want to go. So I had to go to Nashville to get me a CON, Certificate of Need, in order to do it. So what I was going to do, I was going to put an outpatient surgery center, an outpatient diagnostic center, a rehab center, and maybe 5 to 10 beds. Boy, did I get beaten. HCA and Indian Path and Wellmont took me down. I did not get to CON, and so I ended up selling the mental clinic not long after that. So then we had the Holston Medical Group going 1977. I'll get into that just a little bit more. But then in 1989, I'm a numbers freak. I keep numbers all the time. And when I saw that we were having trouble getting consults in the specialty area, that's when I decided we were going to go multi-specialty. It took us 30 days or so to get an orthopedic consult. So we found Steve Krein, and in 1989, we recruited him as an orthopedist. Then we started the multi-specialty group. It was doctor-owned, doctor-led, but it was a PC. It was specialist. But then we combined it in 1993. So here is a quote that I like. We felt that a family practice that was doctor-owned, doctor-driven, and doctor-led, that would nurture compassionate relationship with the goal of providing one-stop shopping would be extremely successful. That was a quote that I used many times. And then my wonderful friend, Dr. Gear, he said, we're going to make a success of this thing. And like I said, John Dodson came in. So we made a presentation, put it together, went to Princeton, New Jersey. I gave the presentation. John Dodson was with me. And we got a grant, at that time, a whole lot of money, $476,000 to start this group. So I came back. We started Holston Medical Group, PC, now 50% owned by Wellmont or Holston Valley, 50% owned by the doctors in HMG. So we saw our first patient January the 3rd, 1977. So these were the people that I gathered to work on Sullivan Street, and then we advanced it further, and I hope you know some of them. David Lane Dickerson, old Joel Gaunt's still around, and Bob Lee, tremendous asset. And these people were all here. And while we were down at on Sullivan Street, I brought in Jennifer Compton, a PA, and I sat in my office and I prayed to God. I said, am I doing the right thing? Will patients really see a mid-level provider? They want to see a doctor. They won't see a mid-level provider. Boy, was I wrong. In no time, she was really one of the busiest ones in our office and so forth. So we saw our first patient January 3rd, 77. 1986, there was a little politics coming up and a little bit of, oh, you're showing too much to Holston Medical Group and Dr. Miller. So John and I got together. I said, it's time for us to separate. Not for quality, not for bringing patients to the Holston Valley, not for me duplicating every one of your services. I won't do that. I said, but it's time we separated as an entity. And we did. And I paid back $476,000. And in 1986, we bought out Holston Valley. Now, I won't go through all of these, but I just want to show you. I've been on Capitol Hill 7 times. I have been in front of 2 presidents because of HMG. Had both of them were going to come to visit, but it ended up neither one of them came, but they sent people. And I can tell you, 1 month in 1989, we had 14 health facilities across this nation visit HMG, including the Cleveland Clinic. And I can go on with those listed. But anyway, it has been a delight. HMG, founded in '77, we became the first provider of after-hours care. We had to meet the needs of our patients. So we became after-hours with hours on Saturday and Sunday, and offices open until late. In 1989, we were the first multi-specialty group when I brought in my Indian Path, Dr. Krein, and those. 95, we were the first integrated user of the electronic medical record. Probably the smartest thing that Dr. Miller did was to get the EMR. I knew we had to do it. Why? Well, let me give you one instance. Little family up in Bristol, and mother is having problems, mental problems. So our doctor sent her over to Bristol Regional, and she got an MRI on her head. They read the MRI, and her doctor was to call her the next day. Well, she went home. They were unhappy with what had happened, and she got a little bit worse. So what they do, they took her to Johnson City. Johnson City took her to the MRI and did another MRI on her head. About the same thing. Sent her home. Said, your doctor will consult you. That night she had a bad wound. They took her to Holston Valley emergency room, and she was headed to the to the MRI again for an MRI on her head, the third one in less than 2 days. But no, not with Dr. Miller, because my electronic medical record showed that she had been in Bristol and so forth. So we stopped it. We did not get another one. We admitted her and went to behavioral health and did the right thing on her. And that's one of the reasons that the fully implemented EMR was one of the smartest things that I did. 96, we had the first clinical research department. Clinical research. We were instrumental in taking some really bad drugs off the market. I want you to know, I can name you 3 that were killing people, and my clinical research department helped take them off. When I came out of Holston Medical Group, and as you all know, Dr. Fowler is now over Holston Medical Group, so 4.5 years ago when I came out, we were doing 118 clinical trials on a continuous basis. Again, good for patients, good for science, and a good revenue stream, yes, for the group. But we were looking at new drugs and getting some of the bad ones off. So we also introduced pediatrics. You all know Dr. Blazer and his wonderful wife. You all know Dick Gendron probably, and some of the others. We brought in the pediatrics to join us. In 97, we became the first to incorporate care of a hospitalist team. I saw that we needed a hospitalist that was more inclined to what is actually going on in a hospital. You can't have a practice up here in Nicholsville, Virginia, or Duffield, or whatever, and stay current with everything going on at the hospital. So we started the first hospitalist program in the country. And it got at least 10 recognitions within a year, year and a half. And we brought in Alan Mead and did physical therapy and rehabilitation and so forth. Then in 1998 we introduced Sapling Grove Professional Building by the Bristol Hospital up there, the first of its kind. It had a diagnostic center, a surgery center, a rehab center, and an urgent care center. And that was back in 98. 99 we opened the first freestanding diagnostic facility up there. And then we brought in disease management. This is one of the best things that we did. Dr. Besterman was here. This is one of the things that we did with Eastman. I went in one day and it's a team. It has a doctor, it has a nurse practitioner or a PA, it has a physical therapist, it has a behavioral health, it has a pharmacist. It's a team. I walked in and there were about 4 or 5 patients in there, and I said, listen, I want to thank you all for coming. I said, all these people here know what is going on, especially in diabetes. Listen to them. I said, I want you to. Well, I said, thank you for coming, and team, thank you all. One thing, we have over 800 employees in HMG. I know every one of them's first name. Every one of them. All the ladies are dear. Hi, dear. How are you, dear? And all the guys are partner. Hi, partner. How are you, partner? But anyway, it's important. So I walked out of that room, and this little gentleman said, Dr. Miller, could I speak to you? And I said, sure. So he follows me out and he tears up. He said, Dr. Miller, I want to thank you for this team. He said, I live down here in Hawkins County, and it's really steep up to my drive. And every morning I get in my car and drive down and get my newspaper and drive back up. Dr. Miller, I worked for Eastman 20 years and I had to retire because of my illness. I've been coming here, Dr. Miller, for 4 months now. I've lost about 18 pounds. My blood sugar is normal, and I'm walking up and down that hill. And I'm going to go back to work. I want to thank you for this, Dr. Miller. I said, well, you've just made my day. Let me ask you a question. Who was your doctor in HMG? And he told me. It is one of the best doctors that HMG had. But that doctor, in a short office visit and so forth, could not accomplish what this team does. And we did this with Eastman, and I'm telling you, it was quite a success and so forth. Also in 99, we had the first freestanding diagnostic facility, disease management I just spoke of. Outpatient surgery center, yes, and we introduced the Academy of Patient Safety. Eric Schwartz and I got together one day and I said, you know, we're making too many mistakes, too many errors in healthcare. And I said, we're not following up. Around the country, 22% of Medicare patients are readmitted to the hospital within 30 days. 22% of you that are admitted, in 30 days you're readmitted, 22%, not HMG, 6%. And you know why? Because of the electronic medical record and because of the patient safety committee, because as soon as a patient is discharged, that family doctor knows, home health care is notified, they can even measure the glucose, the oxygen, everything at home, and it goes to our electronic medical record and we follow it. And so we don't readmit. Holston Medical Group last year saved Medicare in Northeast Tennessee $44.5 million on this area alone, and it is doable. So we also constructed the Metabee Lane Professional Center, and also we launched One Partner. Now, I have a wonderful office we do up in Duffield. I see a piece of property up there that has 3 different telephone systems running across it. 3 different, and I said, right here is where we're going to have data. Right here is where we're going to have interactivity with cell phones, you name it. So we built One Partner up there. And it was the first in the nation Tier 3 built data center for your information. And today it has 1,800,000 facts on patient and their care, and it is very HIPAA compliant and protective sense. So we launched One Partner, and also we gave out calcium scoring, we gave out gift cards for that, and as you can see, 64 slice CT, the first one in the whole region, and we introduced My HMG. If you're a patient in HMG, you can go online and pull up your name, My HMG, you can look at your lab work, you can look at your visits, you can even send messages to your doctor. Very few, even in Northeast Tennessee today, can do that as much as our My HMG. Then we combined the childhood obesity, which is a real problem in this area, Lose It for Good for kids and teens. We at HMG paid the salary on the nurse for Dobbins Bennett High School. We paid her salary for at least several years plus some assistants who could give education and help to many needing and deserving students. It has been a delight and has really worked. We also unveiled Seasons, which is a comprehensive women's program in Bristol. Awards that we have won, I won't go through all of these. I don't know if any of you have colonoscopy, but we introduced the first virtual colonoscopy where you don't have to have that bad thing, you know. And we opened the Med Plaza, the building on Stone Drive. That was interesting. It's 230,000 square feet. Our son Todd, he's the architect for HMG. We built that building. People saying, Jerry Miller, how are you ever going to fill that building? Well, I want you to know it is the largest medical office building in the nation that is not connected to a medical school or a hospital at that time. Now, I don't know if that's true now, but we got an award for that being so. It is full. And as I said, we also introduced further the One Partner Tier 3 center in Duffield. Outpatient Diagnostic Center became the very first, our diagnostic center is very first in Tennessee, Virginia, and South Carolina to be accredited by the Academy of Radiology, which is the licensing entity. So how did we do? And let me just say, one of the things that's been so good for HMG is our retention of doctors. Groups cannot retain doctors anymore, but our percentage of retention has been wonderful. And so what did we do? Well, in '93, we brought in Adkins Family Practice, Weber City, Yellow Rockus, the busiest doctor in Holston Medical Group, oral maxillofacial surgeon. We brought in Sam Breeding, occupational, and you can see, I don't know if any of you know Dr. Renfro, he's a good guy out in Colonial Heights, retired now. And as I said, we brought in the pediatricians, physical therapy, and so forth. And we will go on. We went to Churchill and brought in the group, Bristol, Abington, and so forth. And we now have 2 sleep centers, and we have brought in some others. Now, just recently, we opened an office in Johnson City, the first one in Johnson City for Holston Medical Group. We followed my little vision. We went to St. Paul, Virginia, Lebanon, Virginia, and Honecker, Virginia, and opened clinics. And now they have access 24/7 at those clinics. So it has been wonderful in our growth and our practice mergers and so forth. Also, you know, it's not all about doctors, and all of this is not about Holston Medical Group, Jerry Miller. If I didn't have the people surrounding me that I did, we wouldn't be here today. Come on, I was fortunate in getting people surrounding me who had a vision like me and who saw what we were needing to do. And of course, Dodson and Jim Kendrick was in Nicholsville. He helped me up there get some people to work with us and so forth. And then Jack Christian helped me as a business person. I'm not a real business person, seriously. But Jack was good in helping with the clinic. And then most of you probably know Steve Kilgore, Craig Kilgore, and Todd, my son, who is in charge of all of our real estate activities. And then also, you got to have the ladies. My goodness, the nurses at Holston Valley bailed me out and helped me so many times. It was just unbelievable. And in Holston Medical Group, Jeanie Harless was my first secretary and stayed with me many, many years, but she has deceased. These others, my sister Janie that I told you about, Joe, these are people who really worked with patients with the same aspect of me, the same thing of let's do what is right for patients. And this, I'll just show it to you if you want to see some of your people on it. These are people who've been with me 35 years, 34 years, on through. And it has, like I said, been a delight to have these. And 24 years, Dr. Fowler, who is now President CEO, has been here 24 years, something like that. And it goes on down. These are people who really have been with us this long and who help us with our vision and with our mission. Now, this is our mission statement. What is it? It's to provide quality medical care that exceeds patient expectation and builds lasting relationships. Our vision was engage patients and our communities to be the healthiest regions in America. And our core values were life, integrity, compassion, excellence, collaboration, and accountability. One of the smartest things that we did, and one of the things that impresses me so, is complex, but I'll show you. It's called the HMG Patient-Centered Medical Home. We were the first in the nation to be declared by NCQA and government as this center. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't believe how much we had to put into this. I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about time and effort, because it is a patient-centered entity. Now there are many around the country, but we were one of the first, and that was such an exciting thing for me. Next was Bill Besterman. I told you about our team event, and he did a lot for disease management and so forth, and he was recognized November the 6th in medical economics. And this has really helped us throughout HMG to deal more directly with patients and so forth. You know, I like to talk about the pillars of medicine. What are the pillars of medicine? There's the art of medicine dating back, you name it. There's the science of medicine going all the way back, come on, thousands of years. Then in 1965, we had the Medicare to be brought in. 66, Medicaid. So you have the art, the science, and the business of medicine. And then some fellow by the name of Bill Gates came along, and you all know who that might be. He brought IT. So you had the art, the science, the business, and the IT of medicine. 4 pillars. Well, Dr. Miller knows a 5th one. And it's what I call SEEK. C-E-C. SEEK. What is SEEK? Well, I can tell you, SEEK is connect, educate, and collaborate. Connect, educate, and collaborate. There is not a person in this room, chronic disease or whatever, who will not benefit from educate, educate, educate. And when I say seek, I'm talking about educate patients, yes. I'm talking about educate doctors, nurses, and everybody to deal with these problems. Opioids today, we all need to take a little time to pray. Opioids today. And the other is collaborate. How do we work together? With an EMR is one way. I want the church, the faith-based organizations to work with us, especially in opioids and going forward. And let's all connect. Connect hospitals. Please quit all of this competition. Now, I was for the merger, totally. I am for competition only when it is for quality. When it is for quality. I was a medical director of 3 states. The most expensive health care delivered in those 3 states is right here. And it's not because of you all. It's because of competition to build a new building, to buy a new CT scanner, to do this, so forth, on and on. So I don't believe in competition when it comes to just money, money, money. I believe in competition. One of the biggest things that bothered me was I was down at Vanderbilt trying to get their hospital in their health system. And the CEO said, Dr. Miller, you're against that merger out there, aren't you? And I said, no, I'm not. Well, you've got to be, Dr. Miller, because I'm going to tell you, we get more referrals from Northeast Tennessee right here than anywhere in the country, and we don't want to lose that. Ladies and gentlemen, that was one of my things. I am sick and tired of having to send people to Duke and everywhere else for families and everything else, when if we will combine and quit competing to build a new building, but go with recruitment of doctors and working together, we can solve that issue. So anyway, Dr. Bestman did a lot for us, and HMG is what it is today, and this is the families of HMG, and I'm not going to go into this. HMG is totally physician-owned, physician-led, and patient-oriented. But 5 years ago, before I left, we started allowing employees to come in for ownership. And that has helped a lot also. It's not all about money, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you, it's not all about money. It was never going to be totally about money if Dr. Miller was here. We had one division that we called, in pardon expression, we called the no-knee division in HMG. That was people that had no money, no ways to pay. We had over 14,000 when I left over there, and buddy, we didn't even send them a bill because we're going to take care of those people. They are deserving people. So this is the families. They're all a lot combined now, but it's real estate, it's the ATAC Center, and that type of thing. So where are we today? Well, today we have 40 offices in 18 locations, 22 specialties represented. We have 167 providers. We have 800 plus employees. I told you I know their names. And we have 2 full-service outpatient diagnostic centers, 2 CONs for surgery centers, urgent care, Bristol and here, hospitalists at Holston Valley, soon to go to Bristol, comprehensive care clinics, and that's very complex, but it is wonderful. Physical therapy, clinical research, wellness, home supply services, like I told you. And right now, we have over 1,000 patients a month wanting to join HMG as patients. We also have 187 charts on patients right now. We don't have a single chart. It's all in the electronic medical record, but there's 187,000 of them. And we do better than 45,000 visits a month. So here are our specialties. Podiatry is a new one that we have added. Urology, and we're getting ready to add a dialysis center at our old building over on Indian Paths campus. And you can see the specialties within Holston Medical Group. So what's in store for Holston Medical Group in the next 40 years? We will always have a continued focus on patient-centered care. We will continue to have a commitment to leading innovation, absolutely. In 5 years, ladies and gentlemen, I want God to let me be here. I want all of you to be here. You're going to see what we're doing with cancer. You're going to see what we're doing with cancer. And you're going to see, have I got a cell phone? We're going to do an MRI on that cell phone for many, many years. I mean, it's amazing what is happening. And I told you what the life expectancy has done since I became a doctor. A woman 65 now, 82. All of these things are happening. So continued partnership with our communities, yes. I want to work with our communities, our hospitals. Now, Holston Medical Group is independent. It's doctor-owned. Many, many times the hospitals tried to buy us. Many, many times Blue Cross Blue Shield, Humana tried to buy us, and I said, no, we are not money-oriented, we're patient-oriented. We will not sell. So that's the way HMG is still today. We'll partnership with our communities, with education, wellness, and so forth, and we want to be compassionate in our care, and we want continued growth that supports the need of the community. And I told you, with our ACO program, HMG saved $44 million last year in Medicare expenses that would have been used. So this is just some locations. I won't go into that. Those are some of our buildings and so forth. And this is my quote. I love this quote. Fall in love with the challenges of change and watch the desire to change grow. Absolutely. Nostalgia is a malignancy, particularly on healthcare. So get out of the box, think differently, and always hold your patient foremost. And if you do, good things will happen. So, that's it.
Let me have just a second. It's about 10 till. Jerry's gonna entertain questions, and if anyone feels like they need to leave at any time, that's fine, because we generally break up at 11 o'clock, but he'll stay here for that as long as you'd like.
Okay.
Tell them about Peyton.
Peyton? Well, let me tell you, I want you to watch the newspaper, because there's going to be something new happening pretty soon. The Miller Medical Society is going to be formed. The Miller Medical Society? Yes, I have 5 children, 11 grandchildren, as you know, and my son is a cardiologist, Greg. My daughter-in-law is a pediatrician, Nicole. Right now I have Peyton Marie. She's in medical school. She is the painter of the rock down at the school. You know, you all have seen that rock down there when she was at UT. She painted the rock all the time. But to make a long story short, she said, Papa Jerry, I want to be a doctor like you and Dad and Mama. I said, you're going to. I want you to. I'm going to get you in at VCU. And she said, good. I said, now let me tell you, that artistic ability of yours is something. I want you to be a plastic surgeon. She said, oh my goodness, I don't know about that. But anyway, she's doing very well. Heads her class. Her brother just got admitted to the Quillen School of Medicine. One of my granddaughters is a PA out of LMU, doing well. Another is a veterinarian, got her degree down at UT. I've got 3 more going to medical school within the next year or 2 years. So we're going to form the Miller Medical Society and let them take care of old Dr. Miller and Mrs. Miller, you know, so we'll go from there. But let me tell you, one of the things that is so worrisome to me, I told you I was for the merger. I am against a lot of the things that's going on, and I'm on the committee, the COPA committee, by the way, appointed by the Commissioner of Health to oversee the ballot situation. Misinformation, poor ways of handing out information has got us in a lot of trouble, but we've got to get through it. And you know, I just wish one of the big problems that we've got, and I want to tell you this story. I was over at Greg and Nicole's the other night, and Nicole, the pediatrician, was crying. I said, Nicole, darling, what's wrong with you? She said, I don't know what we'll do without the NICU, Jerry. I don't know what we'll do. She said, I was on call this weekend, and I had 7 newborn babies. 5 of them are on drugs. And Dr. Jerry, I think one of them is going to die. What do I do? If I had to send either one of these to Johnson City, I don't think they'd make it, Jerry. I said, well, I don't know. I said, we're going to work on that. We're going to look at transporting. We're going to see how we can better handle that. But also, we've got to get on the drug situation. The thing that bothers me, you know what is really primarily wrong with drugs in children, in our high school students, in our other students? It's parents' denial. I have had, I don't know how many, I'd say, listen, Johnny is on drugs. We've got to get him help now. Dad said, no, I don't want the neighbors to know anything about that. We're smart enough, we'll take care of it. No. And I'm going to tell you right now, Dobbins Bennett has huge problems. Huge problems. Why don't we recognize it? Bring in the faith-based organizations, bring in the other amenities and so forth, and let's work with these people. I was before the Virginia General Assembly not long ago, and I almost vomited when I came out. They're going to build more jail cells. We're going to build more jails. We're going to put them all in jail. I said, listen, the answer to the opioid situation and addiction is not building more jail cells. Quit doing that. Give these people resources. Let me tell you, in my practice, there were 2 people, 40 years of practice plus, 2 people that stole my heart. The first was the obese. I mean, you know, it's a disease, ladies and gentlemen. Some people can eat half of what somebody else eats, and they'll gain twice as much weight. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's a disease, and they need resources, and they need help. The second one was the addict. I never saw anybody who wanted to be a drug addict. I never really did. It's a disease, though, and it's in the genetics. If it's parental, absolutely you can see it. I never will forget a lawyer, and I won't call his name, but you all know him here. His son was a patient of mine, and he grew up with my boys. My boys came to me one day and said, Dad, he drinks all the time. He needs help. And I said, I agree. I called his dad, and I told him. We put him in rehab 3 times. His dad spent unbelievable money on him. Boy, he had an illness. So I put him in Peachford in Atlanta. And he stayed there for about 3 weeks to 4 weeks, something like that, came out. And I didn't see him for a while. He called me a little bit later and said, Dr. Miller, could I see you tomorrow? I said, why, sure, you can always see me. He said, I want you to meet somebody. It had probably been 4 or 5 months since I saw him. So he came in, he brought this pretty little girl. He said, I want you to meet my girlfriend. We're going to get married, Dr. Miller, and I want you to know I'm drug and alcohol free for 4.5 months now. Thank you for what you've done. I said, no, thank you for what you've done. I said, now listen, it's not over. You've got to fight it from here on out. Well, 6 weeks later, I get a call from his dad. He died of an overdose on the streets of Phoenix, Arizona, because he could not overcome his malignancy. Drugs, it's a malignancy. And we need to recognize, we need to give help, we need to support, and we don't need to build more jail cells. What a wonderful profession, isn't it? Isn't it? It is. Any other question? Yes?
How do you get people to redirect money from the jails, which they think is the right thing to do, to what you're saying? How do you do that?
It's very difficult. Like I said, I've been up on Capitol Hill 7 times. And Tim Atterbury, I don't know if you all knew Tim Atterbury. He was the CEO at Holston Valley. He left 5 months ago, and he is now the CEO of the American Academy of Cardiology in Washington. And he's doing a lot of good work. And he and I talked the other day, and he said, Dr. Miller, we've got to get more doctors involved. We've got to get more people involved. We've got to get the story out there. And I've been meeting with the Virginia legislature, and I think we're making a little bit of progress. But you know, there's $685 billion waste in healthcare today because of competition with health plans, because of the government, the way it's doing things, all of this crazy stuff, you know, and there are solutions. I am telling you, HMG, it is amazing how much money we saved. I wish I had time to really tell you about it. And it's factual. We don't have any millionaires or billionaires in HMG, not me, I can tell you that. But I wouldn't trade my past for $1 billion today, I can tell you that. But we do need input. We need you all to speak up. We need our politicians to step forward. Phil Rowe, I love dearly, but he and I fight sometimes. Because don't just keep pointing out the problems to me, point out the solutions. Give us some solutions. And that is what's got to happen. It's got to happen. Not easy, dear, not easy. But I want to seek, connect, educate, and collaborate. There are enough facilities right in Northeast Tennessee. You know, if you're on drugs and you get convicted, or you get fired, it's almost impossible for you to get a job anywhere else because they'll check your history and they don't hire you. So what do? The other day, my front doorbell rang. I ran to the door and there stood a guy with a 2-month-old baby and a 4-year-old boy on drugs. No money, they're starving, Dr. Miller. What can I do? Well, I'll tell you one thing, we helped him. But you can't do it throughout and everywhere. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Well, thank you all very much, and I appreciate, like I said, if I was ever one of your doctors, I really appreciate doing that. And if you ever need a good doctor, call me and I'll refer you to somebody.
Well, when I said early on he was often called a visionary, I think you can well recognize that. Now, thank you so much for a great program, and thanks everybody for being here.
Very good.
Yes, sir.